Welcome to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. This show is about Plymouth County real estate. This show is being taped in November, and my story is about October numbers. I have a great guest coming on in the second segment, Hassan of Weichert Realtors, Briarwood Real Estate, and we'll talk a little bit about some of our county and colony history. So let's go right to the numbers. With higher interest rates, numbers have been dropping at the Registry of Deeds in terms of recordings. There were 695 deeds recorded in October, less than the 819 in September, 22% less than last year. There were 893 deeds in October of 21. And year-to-date, as far as deeds go, we're down 15%. I'm going to bring up an image of all the sales of property for the 27 communities in Plymouth County, from Abington to Whitman. And Brockton and Plymouth have the highest number of sales, although each of the 27 communities have had sales. The listing is of sales from January through October. Major impact has been the mortgage market. When the rates went up, all the refinances have dropped off. So really you're just seeing mortgages used to purchase property. And there were 1,275 mortgages recorded in October, less than the 1,512 in September, but 56% less than last October. And year-to-date with mortgages, they're down 46%. Again, when rates went up, the refinances stopped and mortgages are way down. We always track foreclosure issues, particularly since the meltdown in 2008. There was a moratorium in place during COVID, so the foreclosure deeds are slowly coming around. There were only 12 foreclosure deeds across Plymouth County for the whole month of October, more than the 9 in September, but 140% more than the 5 foreclosure deeds in October of 21. Again, during COVID, there was a moratorium in place, so the numbers are coming back, and based upon the lack of a moratorium, the numbers will increase. And year-to-date, foreclosure deeds are up 55%. You're going to see the biggest change in foreclosures, in foreclosure notices. That's the first document that we see at the registry that shows someone's in trouble. If you believe you're in trouble, reach out to a federal housing counselor. Try to get a modification or some help. The last thing you want to do is ignore it and lose your home to the lender, which would be a foreclosure deed. So again, fast action helps, but the number of foreclosure notices are creeping up. There were 47 foreclosure notices recorded in October, slightly less than the 48 in September, but 47% more than the 32 foreclosure notices in October of last year. In year to date, if you can believe it, they're up 139%. So here's a listing of foreclosure deeds and orders of notice by community. You can see, based on the moratorium, there's still a lot of zeros. But with Brockton and Plymouth, for example, in the orders of notice, 10 and 8. Whitman having a number this month. Usually it's Brockton, Plymouth, and Wareham. But keep your eyes on your property, because the last thing you want to happen is have a problem and it's too late to fix it. Please be aware there's an ability to file for a fraud alert on our website, PlymouthDeeds.org. You can go to the resource section and look at fraud alert, put in your email, and anything that gets recorded against your name, you will get an email to your email. It's a free service. A lot of people get worried about fraud. We really haven't had a lot, hardly any in many of my years here, but you want to be, again, ahead of the curve, and if there is something, you can get a notice for that. We've had a huge increase in electronic recording of documents. Documents come in over the internet. 80% of our recorded land, 50% of our land court land come in over the internet now. Beware of scams that are out there. People are going to try to take advantage of what for you is probably your most valuable asset, and just be careful with things that come in trying to get you to do things. I have a great guest coming up on the next segment of the show, Bernie Hassan of Weichert Realtors, Briarwood Real Estate. He'll be talking about our current market. Our market has changed over the last couple of years. During COVID, it was a hot market. Last year, it slowed down a little bit, but now with rates rising significantly, it's a different market, and we will hear Bernie's view of it. We'll see you in the next segment. Welcome back to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. This show is about Plymouth County real estate, but in this segment of the show, we always try to do something educational. We've had surveyors, appraisers, commercial real estate brokers. We've had many realtors, because realtors are on the ground. They know what is happening more than anyone in the real estate market. And I have a repeat guest, Bernie Hassan of Weichert Realtors, Briarwood Real Estate. Welcome back, Bernie.
Thanks, John. Great to be here.
Always good to see you. I saw you the other night.
Yeah, it was
Figured
nice.
you'd be the right person to come on.
Well, thanks for having me.
Talk about our changing times.
Yeah, it has been changing. So how's things going down the Registry of Deeds?
It slowed down.
Yeah.
Clearly it slowed down. It started when the rates went up, the refinances dropped off, but the overall numbers are down. And I just thought I'd talk to you about it a little bit from your perspective. We went through a boom period during COVID. 2021, our numbers were way higher than any year since 2004. And it slowed down a little bit last year, and now we're definitely at a lower pace.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
I think we probably started seeing what you're talking about basically a year ago this past July into 2021. It started going the other way. I mean, we had some crazy appreciation numbers, and you probably have some of those numbers in your head, I know. I do. I felt like what I was seeing quarter by quarter was houses going up in value like 14, 15, 16, 17, 18% year over year.
Right.
The last 3 quarters that appreciation rate has gone down.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say is my recollection of quarters 1 and 2 of this year, we were probably in about a 13% year over year appreciation. That's the amount of value that goes up.
Yeah, we're running, according to our reports, at 12% year to date.
So year to date, I thought at the very end was about 11 to 12, what I saw myself. So, but I still saw that the actual, well, the sales volume went down, the sales prices still had gone up. Mm-hmm. Had you seen that yourself as well?
Yeah, we've definitely seen continuing increases on the average sale price.
So, and I find it interesting, and of course, we all know what's happened to the rates, and we all know what's going on at the Fed, and trying to curb inflation. And I think we've seen some slight movement down.
Just for our viewers, what's the last rate you saw on a property you've worked on?
Well, funny, I'm in the bank several times a week, and so I think the one that I'm working on right now, these clients were pre-approved at just slightly under 6.869. But interestingly, they asked for a little bit of closing costs, and they used a point to buy down by a point. So they're gonna buy down to somewhere around 5.859.
And 2 years ago, you're talking about 3?
Oh goodness! I think at one point, didn't we see it slip into the high 2s?
Yeah, I believe it was.
It might have been only for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, right. No, I believe so. That's the delta that between then and now.
Yes, absolutely. But and that impacts it. I think we were talking before we went on air how the way those appreciation numbers and the way the rapidity of the sales prices going up over the last 3 to 5 years, that alone started, I can tell you, and I'm sure you've seen it, I can tell you from my own on the ground with people, that alone has knocked people out of the marketplace. And then the rate on top of it pushes people out or pushes them down with purchase power.
So I really haven't seen the drop in price in properties, though I hear on the news, the radio saying that prices are coming down. I have not seen it yet.
I think, there's a lot of media and everybody has an opinion in media, and I'm not certain that everybody really looks at the entire package of numbers that are out there. And I just saw one of those reports on a national news network just a couple of days ago. And up next, plunging sales prices.
Yeah, right.
So it really wasn't that the sales prices were plunging, it was that appreciation number.
Okay.
And then, of course, let's face it, it's a free economy. You're a seller, you're a buyer. A seller can put any price they want on it.
Right.
I can tell you, as an example, this last sale I was involved with, it went on the market at $425. It sat around for a couple of weeks. My buyers came into the picture. I noticed that it dropped $25,000. I took them right over to the property, and then it immediately had more than one offer on it. And we were able to put a deal on the property,
Wow.
at a much lower number. I think people interpret that as prices dropping, but the house was clearly overpriced by a significant amount, even in this marketplace. So that's what I think people are seeing. The actual prices, unit by unit, year over year, have continued to go up still.
Right. So if you were a viewer watching you right now, what would you tell them the best way for a buyer to be prepared for this market?
Absolutely, and doesn't change anything from the past. You need to have a pre-approval. But you also want to get involved with a couple of things. You want a real estate agent that has some experience and understands that they're going to be there advocating for you, not just inside the sale, but other things too. There's the mortgage officer, being able to work with a qualified mortgage officer. They need to have an attorney. The buyers need to have an attorney. And in many cases, the lender's attorney will help out the buyer's attorney, but they need people looking over documents for them. And today, you need to be aware of the programs that are out there. And I think we talked about this off air earlier. There's the American Dream program where through Mass Housing you can get down payment assistance money. It's a limited amount of money. It's going to run out. It's not going to be there forever. But they can capture a grant for the down payment money. They have to go through a class, and there's some rigid work online for paperwork and so forth to get approved. But you do get a certificate of approval for it in advance, like a pre-approval. So it's a great program. And then, of course, there's other things to look at. The potential for maybe getting closing costs built into the sale. Maybe the seller would help. They buy down the rate by a point. I think I saw a 30-year fixed yesterday at I won't name the bank, but it was at 6.3 something.
Now, are people doing the split rate, pay 5 years at this level, and
So
adjustable
rates, I think they're coming into play again. I'm not aware of none of my sales personally. I'm not seeing my other agents or other agents in the business that I know aren't using that type of loan. I'm not talking about the buy down. The buy down is physically buying down the rate. You're talking about an adjustable. You start out at one, and you move to
3
another
or 4
rate,
years later,
and it locks in. Yes, and you qualify at those rates. Yes, they're starting to become more popular because I do believe rates will go down again. I'm not certain when. Some people in banking that we talk to all the time and financing are actually anticipating if the inflation numbers continue to go down, albeit as slowly as they're going down, that we might see some rate adjustments by certainly this time next year or before that, bringing the rates back down a little bit. I think, let's be fair, John, I think we were borrowing money at almost zero here for a long time.
Right. And people get spoiled.
Yeah.
And obviously you want the lowest rate you can get, but there were days when they were 15.
Yes. Well, I think if I go back to when I bought a house in the late 70s, it was at 17. When I got in the business, they were still up there in 86.
Right. Not that anybody wants to give away money in interest charges.
No. Look, and a lot of the slogans going around. This was put out, in social media by another friend of mine, and it was pretty interesting. It was, you're going to buy a house, you're either going to own it or you're going to rent it from somebody, but you're going to buy a house for somebody. So, and it's interestingly too, because I list property and sell a lot of property in the city and around surrounding towns, like a lot of my realtor friends, and I see that they come in and I ask these buyers, when did you start your search? And they say to me, this week. And it's 7% this week.
Right.
But when you look at it, where are people supposed to live? I mean, these families, young families come in and they're with 2 and 3 children. Where are they supposed to live?
Right.
I mean, you could renting a property is much more difficult today than buying a house, quite frankly.
And you do not build wealth.
You don't build any wealth. You can always refi a property. Regardless of the ups and downs of real estate, eventually, over time, pretty much everybody gets to make out on the equity of the home in building the wealth.
Right.
And you have the security of the property. You secure the property. There's risk in everything, but like I said, and people ask me, like, going to a place, a friend of mine, like, just Lassie, how's business? Oh, pretty good. Sold a couple houses. People are still buying at 7%, and it's like in their mind they think like this is the worst thing you could possibly do is buy a house with a 7% mortgage. And I turned to them and said, well, where are people supposed to live?
Right.
So that's really
and you're giving your rental money away.
You
never
are.
get that back.
And by the way, I'm not knocking renting, but I mean I can tell you. I'm not in the rental business per se, but every time I've tried to help somebody with a rental, it's an arm wrestle. My company owner has about 80 or 90 of his own units, and we put out one ad for one apartment. There's 100 applicants. You can't even get back to the people. And the rents, I'm looking at these rents for a 2 to 4 bedroom apartment today are $2,200 to $2,700 a month.
Right.
Just locally. It's more if you go into Boston.
Closer to Boston.
And if you go to any of these luxury complexes, it's upwards of 3,000 plus.
So let's make a shift, because I have a very soft spot for first-time home buyers. They're the people that are having difficulty even getting on the dance floor. Down payment issues, general accessibility issues, just to get considered because you're not doing a transfer of another house. Let's talk about situations that you've had with first-time home buyers.
Well, the most recent one, as I explained to you, was the Mass Dream program.
Yeah.
And American Dream program. And it is a down payment assistance program. It's through Mass Housing. Pretty much every loan originator I know out there has access to it. So you do have to be a first-time home buyer. It is a grant. And there are some things about the grant that, because it's so new that I'm not really up on. I don't know,
Right.
If
Some of
there's
them they have to live there for a certain period.
of time, and I don't know if it gets written down. If you live there a certain period of time, if you have to pay it off or pay it back if you sell the house before a certain time. But it does give them a full down payment for simply applying and having good credit and applying and having a job and going through a class. And it's a big help. I mean, if the average new home buyer in this area is spending, let's say, $400,000, 5% of that is significant.
Right.
You have to come to the table with almost $25,000 of your own money to get in the game for all the reasons.
And I know Mass Housing is trying to develop programs that work for those.
They do, and this one is a good one. But this money won't last long.
Right.
So if somebody's sitting out there thinking about it, they should talk to a professional loan originator, real estate agent, and take a look at that.
Well, it's always great to get your opinion. Can you share your contact information with our viewers?
Yes, I'm Bernie Hassan. I'm the sales manager at Weichert Realtors Briarwood Real Estate. I can personally be reached at 508-826-3155, and our office is 508-230-8200.
Goes fast.
Thank you, brother.
Okay, thanks
Talk to you
again.
soon.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
I want to thank you to Bernie Hassan, the great job he did in describing the state of the current real estate market. As I mentioned at the introduction of Bernie, realtors are on the ground. They're the ones that know exactly what is happening out there in the real estate landscape. They're dealing with rising interest rates for the purchase of homes, but they're the people that you go to. They're very helpful in getting you prepared to either sell or buy a piece of property. This segment of the show, we do something a little lighter in nature. We talk about our holidays, and we talk about some of our great county and county history. The holidays for the month of November: Daylight Savings Time ended on the 6th. Election Day was on the 8th. Veterans Day on the 11th. National Pickle Day was on the 14th. The Great American Smokeout on the 17th. Thanksgiving is coming up on the 24th, and Giving Tuesday is coming up on the 29th. So let's delve into some of our Plymouth County history. We're just coming off an election a couple weeks ago, but I want to talk about a nominating convention that happened here in Plymouth County that not many people are aware of. Back in many years ago, there was a tavern in the town of Halifax. It was known as Pope's Tavern. Pope's Tavern happens to be the site of the Halifax County Council on Aging. It was begun by Thomas Pope, a captain on the Revolutionary War. It's across the street from Halifax Town Hall in the Congregational Church. Where it stands today, on the corner of South Street and Plymouth Street, United States Senator Daniel Webster was a frequent visitor. But in October of 1830, a special Republican Congressional Convention was held to nominate a candidate for that congressional seat. And it was John Quincy Adams who was nominated. John Quincy Adams had been defeated for the presidency to Senator Andrew Jackson in 1828. He decided in the next election he wanted to return to the House of Representatives. They nominated him. He went on to be serving as a congressman, and he actually died on the floor of the United States Capitol during a session. But he's certainly a well-known name, mostly in Norfolk County, the Quincy-Braintree area, but there also is a connection here when John Quincy Adams was nominated to be a congressman for the district that included Halifax and much of Plymouth County. I visited the town of the town of Mattapoisett recently. We went to a Council on Aging, and I was thinking of a very notable person who had a summer home there. Oliver Wendell Holmes was a member of the Mass Supreme Judicial Court and became a member of the United States Supreme Court. He went to Harvard, joined the Civil War for the North, was wounded 3 times. He was the son of a prominent poet and physician, and he became active in the law. He purchased a summer home in Mattapoisett in 1873. While an attorney in Boston, he became a legal scholar and a professor at Harvard University, and he became a justice of the Supreme Court of Massachusetts. In 1902, he was named by Teddy Roosevelt and unanimously confirmed to the United States Senate, unlike confirmation hearings now, and served for 30 years. He was known to write a lot of opposition opinions. He was known as the great dissenter. So when people voted opinions, he was the one that counted those opinions and gave the reasons why they shouldn't have issued that opinion. He retired from the courts at 90 years of age, and he died in 1935 and is buried with his wife Fanny in Arlington National Cemetery. The last county record is a record of John Alden. We're coming up on the Thanksgiving holiday. John Alden was a very well-known colonist. He came over on the Mayflower at the age of 20. He was a cooper on the Mayflower. That meant he was in charge of beer. Rather than return to England, he stayed in the colony. After a much publicized courtship, he married Priscilla Mullins. Many people might remember from their early school days a poem by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, The Courtship of Miles Standish. And unfortunately, Miles Standish asked John Alden to represent him in his negotiations with Priscilla, and Priscilla fell in love not with Miles Standish but with John Alden. It's a great story. John Alden moved from Plymouth to Duxbury. His home is south of the Bluefish River, and there still is a John Alden site. You can go and visit the Alden House, and it's something that you can go and look at the home set up in the way that it was back in that day. The Aldrin kindred of America, all the people that have ancestors of John Aldrin are numerous, and they maintain that as a public museum. Last but not least is a colony record. You'll see it is in very fine handwriting, and it's kind of a unique decision by the court, because many people know that the Native Americans were very lenient when they deeded land to the settlers, and eventually it turned into something they regretted, and it developed into the King Philip War based upon land transactions. But here's a court decision back in 1671 when a colonist by the name of William Nickerson, in a Mataquin sonnet, the sachem of the Manamet people, he refused to sign a deed over to William Nickerson, and William Nickerson sued him because of the not signing the deed. But the colonial court decided to fine for the sachem. Pretty interesting decision at the time, because the colonists were all white, newly transferred Englishmen, not Native Americans. I want to thank Lorna Green Baker and Christine Richards helping with this show. I want to thank Brockton Cable Access. This is my 145th show. Emma Reardon, once again, did a great job being the cameraman in the studio today, helping me move this show along. I want to thank you for watching this show. I hope you have a good Thanksgiving and a good pre-holiday season. We'll see you next month. Thank you.